Hi everyone, it's Margaret here with 60 and Me. Well, every few months I do this kind of video so you can go get a cup of tea and settle down because it's not going to be light and airy. It's going to be about money, financial planning in retirement. And I am so focused on this right now because there's so many things I want to do, as I, get older. And I'm realizing that things don't, buy the same amount anymore. Inflation's going up. And I'm very conscious about financial situation as I get older. But it can seem overwhelming. And I'm sure many of you are caught up in it, just like I am, trying to figure out how on earth I'm going to manage. But I just think there's some areas, if we can focus on them carefully and honestly and thoughtfully, we'll be okay. We will get through this. And part of me, I think is this bag lady syndrome where everyone thinks they're all going to run out of money and be on the streets. It's a very common thing that a lot of older women deal with, and myself included. But I know from my experience that I've been through very, very tough times financially, and I had times when I've been very fortunate financially, but I've got through it. When the crash of 2008 took place, it's almost 20 years ago, gosh, I actually, lost everything. And I had literally no money, and it was, a struggle. But I'm sure, and when I was young, when I was, I had young children, I did all my shopping at charity shops for the kids, and so you can pull in your own experience because it's all not woe is me. It's just it's real. We get through it. We do it. But the reality is, we're older now. We can actually hopefully plan in advance. So the first thing is such a simple one, and everyone's going to be going, oh, Margaret, let me have a cup of tea here because it's like boring. Budgeting is, it starts this the B word, and you'd be surprised how many people do not know how much money goes out of their bank account every month on like direct debits or whatever you call them, or payment schedule. It's really, to me, very inconceivable because I'm very conscious of everything that comes out. First of all, you've got to manage your expenses and your income, and you've got to hopefully connect the two so that there's not an overlap. Well, if there's an overlap in the positive, you can then save or invest. But if you've got negative, it's harder. So you've got to do a budget. You've got to look at all the things that are coming out of your life as an expense. Basic things like housing, utilities, groceries, insurance, transport, healthcare. It's a lot. Those are all things that to live in this world today, you need to think about. Now, there are some areas there that are like non-negotiables, like housing, probably utilities, transport. Those are like unchanging. But then with the groceries and health and leisure, the other things you can actually be a bit more flexible with, and you have more control over it. You can actually, cut back on the food or the things you're buying, or, but the priorities are those at your house, and if you're renting or still paying a mortgage. You've got to compare your expenses to your income and make sure you know your income. So your pensions, Social Security, whether you've got savings that you're drawing from, like a savings account. Those are really the only things you can pull on other than a salary. So if those pensions, Social Security, and benefits or retirement savings are not enough, you've got to work. There's just, and I know people go, why do I have to work when I'm in my 60s or 70s? Because you need to pay all the things that give you the lifestyle that you choose. And that's the hook. You go back to where you want to be. Are you in a big house that you have been living in? Your husband may have passed away. Your children have left home. You don't need a big house, but you're still paying a mortgage for that big house. Maybe you actually have to do some changing. And, I'm not going to make the obvious recommendations, but it's like you've got to, if you're finding there's a gap in what you earn from your savings or all those retirement funds and your expenses, there's only one solution: to either reduce the costs or increase the salary, increase the income. So I know, if there's a gap, what will you do? Now tell me your story, because I want to know how people are dealing with this, because I've got some thoughts here I'm going to talk about, that maybe have worked a bit for me. But, to start off, for example, right at the beginning, or your expenses, and categorize into needs and wants. You need a home. Well, okay, I'm talking about from a privileged position in some ways, because there's many people in the world who don't have a flat, or they have to share, or they're on, they're not homeless. There's lots of, I'm not trying to be funny, but you have to have somewhere to live. And if you're dealing with homelessness or whatever, then you've got to look at some of the social programs that can help you And I know that's a whole other discussion and video, but I don't want to get into the politics of it. I just want to say that that's kind of a need. You need to have a place that's safe, and you do have to have some food and water. You've got to have some nourishment. Those are kind of basic needs. You've got to have what else? Well, healthcare is almost a necessity when you get to be over 60, 65. So I would say that's a need as more than a want. It's really, really important. Transportation. You can say that my car is an absolute need. I've got to buy gas, I've got to pay insurance. But if you've got public transport, then that's an option. You can save money that way. So you start to get into the areas where there's that definition between needs and wants starts to be flexible and worthy of discussion. I, for example, don't have a car. I don't have any vehicle, so I use public transport. And for me, that works. I mean, of course, I live in a place where there's trains and trains and buses, but maybe you've got some options too. So anyway, once you've done that, you can really sort out where you can save the money. And it's obviously not in the needs, but it's in the wants. And then if you fill up the rest that's left with wants, you have nothing to save. And I think there's so many people that say this, and I agree with it. You've got to have like at least a month or 2 months of an emergency fund. I mean, if today something happened, that created a big disruption in your life, you've got to have somewhere to go for at least a couple of months. So be able to pay rent, food, and all the basic incomes. You've got to have a couple of months of a what do you call it? Like a rainy day fund. That's what I'm looking for, a rainy day fund. But don't panic. Breathe. It's going to be okay. I think the other thing that I mentioned there, if you've got an overlap between the money that's coming in and the things that's going out, if you've got any left over, you should try to make at least 10%, 20% if you can, of your earnings and income coming in to investment. Now, I'm actually not knowledgeable at all about investments, cryptocurrency, or anything like that. So I am not going to even try to explain to you what your options are with things like annuities and all those things. I can say the words, but it would be not genuine to say that I can advise. I honestly can't. Pam Kruger is an amazing woman. She and I interviewed together many, many times, like 5 years ago, but her truths then are just like they are today. And if you find any of my videos with Pam Kruger, Krueger, she's actually like a television presenter in the areas of financial information and insights. And she also has a company called Wealth Ramp that she started, Wealth Ramp. And that is a directory of fiduciary advisors. And for me, I was always so happy to share that with Pam because she advises, if you're over 60, to not go to a normal financial advisor because their payment, their commission is on selling you things, annuities and reverse mortgages and those kinds of things. They want the commission like now. And they're used to dealing with people that have time in their planning. But a fiduciary is someone that you pay a set fee for and you do consultancy with them, just on the things that are important to you. You may know exactly what you want in categories A and B, but C and D, you just would like some other opinion, other advice. So they're called fiduciary. Maybe some of you know about this. But anyway, investment strategy is really important. If you even just take bonds out or something that's super, super safe. And if you have no money at all, just do the best you can. I mean, I know, even as I say the word investment, people are going, Margaret, come on, get in the real world. I don't have any money to put in an investment account. And I get it. Consider things that could make a difference, like social security, for example. If you take your social security out, I think it's 62, you can take it out. You get, say, for example, 1,500. And if you leave it until 70, and you just don't take your social security, you'll get 2,200 or something. It's a big difference if you wait. So if you can wait to get your social security until 70, that's going to be better, but take it when you need it for sure. But consult with an expert on social security to get all the info. Another big area for financial planning is healthcare costs. Hardly anyone seems to think about long-term insurance. This is where you could, pay for your accommodation in a retirement home or in a medically assisted retirement home. There are insurance policies, and I know from just conversations with people that we're talking big numbers, big numbers, 10,000 a month, whatever. It's really crazy numbers to go into a nursing home that has medical support and help. So just to think about it, if you're in your 60s, early 60s now, go ahead and try to get some long-term insurance. I know that for in the States, you've got Medicare and supplemental insurance. It's called Medigap or Medicare Advantage that help with out-of-pocket costs. I mean, I know that it's all different around the world, but make sure that you understand. We've done a lot of articles on 60andMe about Medicare. So just, you can search on the homepage, just at the top, this little search bar, just type in anything, and videos too, just in YouTube. Estate planning, of course, make sure that you've got your wills, your trusts, your paperwork all together, and set up trustee to manage your assets when you're not here. Consult with a planning attorney. It's really important that you have that all together. It causes such stress to families when someone that they love dies and doesn't leave them instructions, not just on their finances and their assets, but where they want things to go, where they'd like to be buried, where they'd like, or cremated, whatever. And, just your preferences. I mean, I've got in mind, like, the music to play, and, I just don't want any big ceremony. I just want lots of people to gather and chat about my life and how I impacted them, and that piece of people I loved. I mean, it's a very, very casual will. I mean, I actually wrote it myself. It's not like a document. How is yours? I mean, did you do that? Have you got a will? If you haven't, you should have one. Promise. What else have I got here? I think that's about it. Tax planning, of course. That's a whole other video. Yes, we're through that tax period now, but that's another whole issue to discuss. But yeah, you've got to think about these things because it's important as you get older. Anyway, guys, hope that you're doing okay. Hang in there. Just, work your finances through to the best of your ability. If you've got any tips and tricks, please leave them in the comment section below. And I do appreciate you so much. I know this is a bit of a boring topic, but it's important, okay? Take good care.